Sinners is a masterclass in how to write intelligent horror, and I'll tell you what, there was a moment I became sold on Sinners and knew I was in for something special. I was half braced for Mary to die because she wants to get it on with Stack, as is the case in a lot of horror where the first character dies pretty much just because they're promiscuous, and it's always a girl too for some reason, but we didn't get that. Instead, she goes out to the vampires claiming she wants to see if they have money to spend, only Remick sees right through her, saying she came for a different reason entirely.
Cause you're in some deep, deep pain that money can't fix. You came over here for fellowship and love.
Fellowship and love.
She feels the lack of a people that she can identify with, so goes out to the vampires in the naive hope that she might find them there. It's such an interesting mistake to lead to a character's death. It underlines the story's entire theme, and my god, wow, what a way to do it. I am in awe. And to see it from another angle, take a moment that conventionally might be called bad due to it being an out-of-nowhere jump scare, only it works really well.
My son has felt the call of sin.
It works because this prologue is from after the climax, and his father is reminding him of Remick, the baddie. When he looks at his dad, he is seeing the big bad vampire because they both want the same thing from him, to cast away his cultural roots. And this flash of a scare primes the audience for Sammy's internal struggle as well as the theme. It's the opposite of cheap, and it's so refreshing to see a horror that's actually thoughtful with how it scares the audience. This is really the core of the film, the main reason why I'd call this an intelligent horror, because while you'd think the Smokestack twins are the protagonists, it's really Sammy. Every other character moves around him as their own unique cog in this sublimely written machine. He's why the vampires came.
You're the one I came for. I sensed you. I want to see my people again. I'm trapped here, but your gifts can bring them to me.
Sammy's struggle underpins everything the movie is out to say. His gift with music means he can help his people connect with their culture. Meanwhile, a whole bunch of characters are pushing him to give all of that up. This comes from Remick, but also his allies.
Well, you better enjoy the rest of the night, because this your last juke.
Drop the guitar, Samuel. Put it down. In the name of God.
His father is a preacher, a Christian, and Christianity isn't a part of his heritage. It's something that was forced upon his people after their culture was assimilated by the West. His father didn't just choose assimilation, he chose to leap in head first and convert his community into believing the same thing he does. Only Sammy's conflicted, because preaching doesn't really move him. In fact, the only time he's ever touched the divine is when he's playing the blues. And why's that?
Blues. It wasn't forced on us like that religion. No, sir. We brought this with us from home.
In fact, every major character has a stance here. They land on either side of choosing to preserve one's culture or assimilate into the more dominant one invading their lives. Sammy is stuck right in the middle of this. The story's big question, when you strip all else away, is which side of the theme will Sammy end up on? Everything I've laid out is already really clever. It's hard to find a horror film thinking about things with this level of depth. But the more we peel back the layers here, the more you see how this permeates through the minutiae of the story, you'll see just how genius this writing is. Take Annie. Out of everyone in the production, she's the most in tune with her heritage. No one is a bigger believer in sticking with one's culture than her. It is no coincidence that she's the first to realize what their weaknesses are by throwing the pickled garlic. It's her who recognizes the true nature of the threat.
These ain't hates. They're vampires.
The more in tune with your roots you are, the better you are at noticing when they're under attack. It makes intuitive sense. And take the climax. She gets bitten and asks Smoke to put a stake in her heart. She is the only character to normally die during the vampire threat, choosing death over assimilation. Her convictions on the theme are that strong.
That's what I'm talking about!
It's brilliant writing. Then take Smoke and Stack. They both believe the opposite here. Stack is totally okay with embracing culture that isn't his. Smoke isn't. When the vampires start their first song, Stack is bobbing his little head and he's having a great time, while Smoke is unimpressed and threatens them with his gun. After Smoke scares them off, Stack says,
Y'all have a nice night.
Stack, when he tries to tempt Slim, uses foreign goods to do it.
What you got there, boy?
What is? It's an Irish beer.
Smoke's love interest, meanwhile, is Annie, the one most in touch with their culture, the only person who dies and doesn't end up a vampire. Stack's love interest is Mary, the one least in touch with their culture and the first to become a vampire.
It was perfect. Perfect.
And of course, let's look at Mary. She's got black heritage, but she's mostly white, and while most of the characters are accommodating to her, there's this undercurrent that she doesn't really fit in. She lacks the same roots as everybody else. She hasn't integrated with any culture, not black or white, making her especially easy prey to the vampires. Like, even the Choctaw, they're only on screen for a bit, but them being competent vampire hunters who have Remick on the run when we first see him isn't coincidental. These guys have recognized Remick as the monster he is, and have totally rejected him, letting us guess at their stance on the theme, one of total non-integration.
He's not what he seems. God forbid you let him into your home.
This clicks well with the setting because this was in the middle of the residential school era when native resistance saw a massive resurgence due to how children were being taken away by the government. But before I break it down further, I reckon there is a fundamental reason why Sinners is so good while a lot of horror out there isn't. The core of it is because 80% of what makes for a great horror story is just what makes any great story. Deep characters, rich themes, an exciting plot. That remaining 20%, well, that's whether or not it scares the audience properly. And I say 80%, it's that high because often a horror story is labelled as one, but it isn't really that scary. However, because it's still a well-told story, people will love it. As a great example, Sinners. It's definitely a horror, but there aren't that many moments in it that shake you to your core with fright. Then you've got Aliens, another great one. It was nowhere near as scary as that first film, but because the characters are so good, the action is so fun, the plot's so tight, few cared about the relative lack of scares. For many people, they prefer it to the original film. Now, I'm not saying horror shouldn't be scary, obviously, being scary is a virtue here, but writers have gotten so focused on that 20%, asking how do we scare the audience, that they neglect every other aspect of the story. If you ask me, this is the real root of the rot in recent horror. A great example is The Nun 2. If you've never heard of it, that's fair. It came out 2 years ago and, like most horror films, is immediately forgotten about because there's little special about it. But in the film, they have some good scares there, to be fair. There's one where magazines are turning in the wind and the figure of an evil nun gradually forms before grabbing her. It's top stuff, very creative, but the fact these little moments are the only parts of this film anyone can remember betrays the reason for its mediocrity. These scares are where all of the focus went into, so they're the only things good about the film. But then take Sinners. We got a good few scares in here, but they all have substance. This scare does a ton for the story. So Cornbread walked off to use the toilet ages ago. Everything went to hell, and he's finally come back a suspiciously long time later.
Where the hell you been at, man?
Then he asks to come in.
All right, well, let me in so I can help.
But they don't say yes, so he asks a second time.
Just step aside and let me on in now.
And that gets them very suspicious. Why does he need to be invited in? Then the tensions ratchet up until he's told to sod off. He demands they at least pay him for the night's work. They do, and that's when we get our scare. This isn't some solitary fright, it's actually integral to the story structure. It comes at a point usually called fun and games, where they test out the rules of the world and learn the true nature of what they're facing. This whole scene tells the characters that the vampires can convincingly act as the people they once were. And also the important rule that vampires have to be invited in. But most of all, it's the kick in the arse the characters need, telling them it's time to prepare for a big fight. It marks a key progression point in the film. What The Nun 2 and others of its ilk did, it's a writing mistake I like to call the flaw of moment to moment. It's a common writing mistake in general, but it has utterly plagued recent horror. I've fallen for it before, so has my fellow creator Nerdwriter. In fact, in a video of his, he put it quite beautifully.
Most of the student films I directed revolved around a few moments that I thought were going to blow people away. If I could just navigate the story there, that would be enough. The moment would do all the work. Then I'd just navigate to the next one. For this reason, my student films weren't that good.
But there's a great question people have been asking. Why is Remick Irish? It's a really interesting choice, and even more interesting, why does he speak with an American accent?
Can't we just, for one night, just all be family?
Only to reveal his Irishness alongside his vampirism. It's because the Irish at the time were looked down upon as the dregs of society, second-class citizens. There's a reason Remick has an American accent even deep into the climax when there's no point putting up a front anymore, because he's assimilated into the American culture and has lost touch with his own roots. The Irish at the time evaded their persecution in the US by, in a sense, doing exactly what Remick did and advocates for: erase your identity and assimilate. Vampirism is an allegory for assimilating culture. It reflects the cold truth how once you become a vampire, you don't need to worry about being hunted because you've joined the group that's oppressing you. This is all playing into setting too, and why choosing the right one is so often underrated. Many writers get lazy with it here. The cabin in the woods or haunted house tropes are perfect examples. I've yet to see a story where it's a cabin in the woods, and that setting is anything other than a justification for plot to happen because it's isolated and they can't reach the police. The setting should be bolstering every aspect of the story, not just plot. Remick being Irish, that aspect of history at the time, clicks so well with the theme, as does the general setting, the Jim Crow South. That core thematic divide, it's not just permeating the plot and the characters, but the setting too, that of a segregated town still living under the shadow of slavery through sharecropping. These are a displaced people, one struggling to put down cultural roots without having those roots be tainted by the loom of Western culture, such as Christianity. It's the perfect setting for this story. And a moment that's just so good is the very climax. A power tip: the way your hero defeats the villain should underpin the theme. Remick's coming after Sammy, and Sammy starts praying. Christianity's great at protecting from monsters. It helps with exorcisms and usually stops vampires in their tracks, but in this story, it makes him happy. He joins in with the prayer.
Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses. Long ago, the man who stole my father's land forced these words upon us. I hated those men, but the words still bring me comfort.
This is all subverting the normal vampire formula, but it works because Christianity is something that he assimilated himself. It's the main religion of the dominant culture that's been seeping into this town. It's essentially everything that Remick stands for. Sammy saying the Lord's Prayer to protect from Remick is a sign that he hasn't truly completed his arc. It didn't work, so what does Sammy do next? He reaches for his guitar, a symbol of his culture, and smacks Remick with it, and it burns him terribly, buying him the time he needs for Smoke to come save the day, because it's got silver in it. Now that is some damn fine symbolism. Sinners is a story firing on all cylinders all the way through. I've yet to see another horror film like it, one that's so diligent with how it handles its ideas. If there had to be a big lesson to learn here, it's that you shouldn't make the mistake of thinking of your characters as one thing, your themes as another, and your setting as the other. All of these elements in a great story, they should be blending together. So much so, it annoys any potential video essayists trying to divide it all into neat sections for their video because it's all so seamless. So I've been inactive on The Closer Look for 5 months now, and there's a reason why. I've been working on the coolest video I have ever made, and it's called How to Write a Psychopath. I noticed that while everyone and their mum is making how to write dialogue, top 10 tips for character arcs videos that more or less all blend together, nobody is doing topic deep dives on the really hard to write issues that require a ton of research to get right, like PTSD, autism, psychopathy, largely because the effort required is enormous. These are all topics I'm going to tackle for you guys, and the amount of scientific papers I had to read to make that psychopath one made me a bit crazy, but it's finally done. In it, I break down why Hannibal Lecter is actually incredibly unrealistic. Someone like him has never existed. While Willy Wonka is actually a textbook psychopath, it's scary how well he fits the diagnosis. I have never been more proud of a video, I've never put more effort into a video, and while it's ready for you to watch, it's not not on YouTube yet. Instead, it's out early on Nebula. I'm doing something special with Nebula from now on. I will always be one video ahead there. You're gonna have to wait a while for the Psychopath video to come out, because after it is another mega video called Hollywood Can't Write Genius Characters, where I break down the many, many ways people have screwed up genius characters from Reed Richards to Sherlock. If you'd like to watch how to write a psychopath, all you've got to do is click that link in the description and it'll take you straight to my video on Nebula. It's only $3 a month, it's incredibly cheap, and the value you get is insane. And not only can you watch all of my videos around a month early on Nebula, there are a ton of great classes, tons of Nebula exclusives, and you can watch everything there in a totally ad-free environment. The value for money is genuinely great. Also, most of your subscription fee goes straight to me, so signing up is a brilliant way to support the closer look and all of the funky videos I'm going to make from here on. If that interests you, do click my link in the description, sign up for Nebula, and watch How to Write a Psychopath today. But thanks for watching, keep writing, and I'll see you guys next time on The Closer Look.